use.
We do. All right.
Hello, we are back.
We are back.
And we are here to words once again with the paper.
We're going to words with the paper.
We words with the paper and
What if I
the
words
flat
with the
thing
phone?
and the U's.
The U's? What about the
we
A's
word-
and the E's and the I's?
We words with the U's. Could you imagine how difficult the English alphabet would be to pronounce if we only had U and none of the other vowels?
I'd rather not.
Yeah, me too.
That's
Does not
probably,
sound fun.
That's probably why the other vowels are there.
I thought it was just aesthetics.
No.
You would not be able to pronounce any of aesthetics.
No.
Because vowels. Crazy.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much throat in that. I don't like it.
It could be ooh. Oothustooks.
Oostutooks. Oostustooks.
I don't know. It would be a weird word. As would a lot of other words.
Come back next time to see me working on rewriting the entire English language with only U's. It's gonna be fun.
I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
We'll see if we work phonetically and find like one word where U makes like an I sound or something stupid like that.
Oh, like
then-
how fish is spelled Ghoti?
Exactly.
Yeah, English is a weird language. You might could if you could pronounce
As
the
I,
U and all those
as
different
I saw on the internet, my English professor said that English is not a language. It's three languages stacked together, wearing a trench coat full of knives.
Oh. Don't try to give it a hug then.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Much danger.
Three
Will
languages
Robinson.
wearing a trench coat full of knives.
It's three languages stacked on top of each other wearing a trench coat full of knives. Like, you know, they do in the movies where
Why-
they got the
why
short
the
person
knives?
and it's like,
Usually when they have the trench coat, they got like stolen watches or something.
because if you're trying to learn English, like
It'll
it's,
cut you up.
it's gonna cut your brain up.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's true
Also-
because the people I know from foreign countries who've learned English says English is not nearly as hard as some other languages.
Did
Russian,
you know
for example?
that every sea in
Hungarian.
Pacific Ocean is pronounced differently?
Yes, I did. But did you? Did you know that the Pacific Ocean has absolutely nothing to do with our Bible story that we're going to look at today?
Correct, because they are by the Mediterranean Sea, which is a good distance away from the Pacific Ocean.
Well, it's not as far as you might. Well, there's the Indian Ocean in the way.
Yep.
I guess over there.
Yep.
Anyway, 2 Chronicles 20. It's about time you got that out. It's been 3 minutes.
I mean, I was busy talking, trying to hold it off, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Then I start talking and he immediately yawns.
That's how the video goes.
Yep. So 2 Chronicles chapter 20, as we look at another prayer. This one's a pretty long one. Not as long as some we've done, but longer than others.
It's going to be 45 verses, and I'm going to read every word of all of them.
It's actually only about 6 or 7 verses, but
And the context added in makes it 18, 19.
well, in the context. Basically, once again, you'll never guess what's happening.
War!
How did you guess?
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing except giving us an opportunity to study another Bible prayer. All right,
Bingo.
so
Show the man what he's won behind curtain number 3.
so the Moabites, the Ammonites, and some other people that some translations
Squirrel.
translate as Meunites. No, there were no. I don't think
There was one over there.
Yeah, but there are none, and there's no
Are there
squirrels.
squirrels in Israel? Do they have squirrels in the Bible lands? Like when Jesus was doing a sermon at some point, did he just squirrel because there was a squirrel? And if there weren't squirrels, then like...
Do they have
it's
some
just-
other sort of little animal that climbs trees?
Yeah. Do they have trees? Isn't it a desert?
Well, there are also ground squirrels. Well, no, originally, it was the land of Canaan was the land flowing with milk and honey.
Well, yeah,
They had
but
olive
I mean,
trees. They had, of course, Lebanon had the cedars of Lebanon that were famous as big trees. Yeah, that's
Big
stuff. Anyway,
trees.
they had trees. They had trees at least as good as big as a mustard plant. So, anyway, So these groups of people have joined together to attack Israel, and the messengers come and they tell.
Jumping Jehoshaphat.
I wonder how he got to be known for jumping when there's nothing in the Bible about him ever jumping.
We'll have to Google it afterwards.
Yeah.
Remember, once this is done, Google jumping Jehoshaphat. That wasn't for me and him later on.
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
talking to you, the people
Yeah, what
watching.
we'll be Googling is whether there are squirrels in Israel.
Because that is very important to
Yeah.
me. Almost as important as how many turkeys are actually in Turkey. And I'm not talking about
And-
the Turkish people.
And that's, you can't get an answer to that.
Cannot find out.
They don't
how
even
many
call them
turkeys-
turkeys in
They
Turkey.
don't. It's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like, I just want to see how many turkeys are in Turkey.
Like how many turkeys
guys.
they eat in Turkey even.
Yes.
And it's all like pulls up stuff about cannibalism, and you're like, no,
I'm
that's
like,
not what I'm talking about.
The birds in the place, the things.
And they don't, they don't
And
really
numbers.
celebrate Thanksgiving, so they
No.
don't understand Thanksgiving turkeys. But anyway. And Benjamin Franklin thought the turkey should be our national bird, except that he didn't, because he was mocking people when he suggested that. But people don't know that. But now you do. So you know something that most other people don't know. You know both the thing that's not true and the thing that's true about the thing that's not true. Don't you feel great knowing those things? All right. So Jehoshaphat had these
so encouraging.
messengers. Yeah. It's good to know things that sometimes. So the messenger comes and he's like, there's a huge army coming, and yeah, watch out. They're over there in En-Gedi, which is not too far away. So Jehoshaphat was afraid, and like other good kings before him, of which there have been like two, like two, so it could be one or three.
But neither one of those is like two. They're near two,
Well,
but they're not like two.
they're like two in that they're numbers, like two. They're also like two in that they're prime numbers.
Okay.
And see, two is the only even number that's a prime number, which makes it odd.
So
see, they're all three odd numbers.
okay. So we have three numbers that are odd.
Yes. And that way they're alike. But anyway, the good kings did the same thing that Jehoshaphat did. He decided to seek the Lord's advice. I mean, wow, what a concept, right?
Mind blown, country destroyed, armies flattened.
Did we? But it should be
Things.
so obvious in the first thing that comes to mind. But how often do we not seek God's advice?
I mean, why would we? Is
How
the
often
importance
we have
of
an important decision to make, and we're like, well, let me think about that for a while, instead of, well, let me go pray and study about that for a while. Why do we not do that? Why wouldn't we do that? Anyway, so he even went further than just seeking the Lord's advice. He made a decree that all of Judah, the entire nation, should fast. They should all stop eating.
And that is how the Speed Force got ripped in two.
I don't know
Because
what
an
you're talking
entire country got fast.
about. They didn't
There were
get that.
so many
That's,
Flash knockoffs.
that's totally
like-
different than.
They're just... Pew!
No, in this case, fast doesn't mean like fast. It means.
It doesn't mean zoom zoom?
No, it does not mean zoom
Zoom
zoom.
zoom.
Doesn't mean move with great speed. It means don't eat. Which, yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, so that's what he told them. Then he calls them all together, and when they showed up,
How do
He
you
got
call
up
a
the-
mall together? Is that what a
That-
strip mall is? Or is
no,
that a
no,
regular mall?
Pretty sure the mall is all together. Yeah, it's
So
all one
it-
building. That's
So is a mall when someone got a bunch of strip malls and called them all together?
could be.
Is that
could be.
that? And see, now you know how malls may or may not be born.
One of my favorite stories from the New Testament is when Paul stood in front of the mall and preached to the people. I mean,
And here you thought the New Testament wasn't modern.
he actually, they actually did have something kind of similar to a mall.
And based on who you talk to, they may or may not have also had something similar to fast food services. So
Well, hey, no, I've seen pictures of the food,
a food
Like,
court
for-
thing.
like a little food
Yeah.
stand
Mhm.
that had pictures of and I mean, there was like a picture of like a chicken and a picture of like a cow, and then a picture of some other animal that I'm not sure what it was. So I don't know if I would have ordered that one, because, but
I mean, if I like, I've seen the same picture. I think it was in Rome. It may have been a pig.
it could have been a peacock. They were known for eating peacocks, even. You know.
I'll have to ask Connor to try that. Let me know how it tastes.
Do you want her to eat tall and dark,
It's
or
tall dark.
tall dark,
Mm.
or handsome? Which one do you think? Or maybe the peahens would taste better.
If
than the
it's
peacocks.
true that you are what you eat, I would want her to eat handsome so that I can continue poking fun about her being short.
Oh, you don't want her to be tall.
Because if she eats tall dark and she becomes tall and dark, then I wouldn't be able to make short jokes anymore.
Okay, then. That's some convoluted logic right there. So, Jehoshaphat gets in front of the temple at Jerusalem. He gets everybody assembled together. And it's in front of the new courtyard, because they had rebuilt things.
They
and-
did that remodeling
Yeah,
thing.
they did a remodel.
Mm-hmm.
Had a new courtyard. And then he begins to pray. So,
And said, O Lord God of our fathers, are you not God in heaven? Is he not? Like, I feel like that would be a pretty big issue if they just get to this point in history and then realize he's not God in heaven.
yeah, well,
Like,
you know, it's weird how we sometimes speak truths with questions.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, remember we talked about Abraham kind of did that. Will not the God, the judge of the universe, do what's right? You know?
Yeah.
You know, this translation translates a little different. He just says, you are the God who lives in heaven. You know, takes the question out of it. But, yeah.
So, you are the God who lives in heaven, basically. You rule over all the kingdoms of the nations. In your hand are power and might, so that none is able to withstand you. Now, I don't know if
And like you can't withstand a yawn.
It's rough, man. Listen, I don't use it on this because my yawning has just become a thing for this channel, but I have actually developed a technique to stop yawning because I yawn so much and it gets annoying.
I've heard that you yawn a lot if you're not getting good breathing. You know, if you breathe
Well,
right,
yeah,
you get
see,
air.
that's the
then-
thing is like when I'm talking a bunch or when I'm reading out loud a lot, then I kind of forget to keep breathing. So, see, that's my technique.
It sounds like you have a stuffy nose today. Too.
No, it's just kind of a messed up throat.
Oh, just kind of sinus.
My nose is
drainage and
like
stuff.
a little bit stuffed up, but not too badly. But anyway,
Allergy stuff. All right.
in this verse,
In this
I
verse.
think it's interesting. Something I noticed. He says, "You rule over all the kingdoms of the nations."
Yeah.
If you extrapolate that out, Jehoshaphat is also saying that God is ruling over the Moabites and the Ammonites,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah, they're under his power.
Mhm.
He can do what he wants.
And so it's interesting. I don't know that he was thinking about it this way, but it's interesting to me that essentially God is sending a large army against his chosen people because he is in control of the other countries.
Yeah. Well, he's.
In a way.
And later, he does. I mean, he tells them when he sends Babylon.
Yep.
He sent Babylon,
Yep.
and then later he's going to punish Babylon for coming and attacking his people. It's
Yep.
like, okay, you go kill them and take them prisoner and stuff. Okay, shame on you for killing them and taking them prisoner. I'm going to punish you.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily punish them for that, but he did punish them for all the disobedience that they did.
And
to
he
him as
punished
well.
them for thinking that they were so great that they destroyed God's chosen people when
Yeah.
God was the one that
He
told
was like,
them
I sent
to
them
do
into
that.
into your little slavery camps and stuff.
Yeah.
That wasn't you. But yeah, we sometimes forget just how powerful God truly is.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel talks about this too, that God sets up whoever he wants
Yep.
over the affairs of men. And he sometimes it's even Daniel says the basest I think that's the King James, the most base of men or something like that. But even rotten scoundrels. And you look through history and you see it. Sometimes the rotten scoundrels are leading the country, and sometimes that's because that's what the country wanted. That's what they deserve. You think about King Saul. King Saul turned out to be, he started out pretty good. He was humble and everything, but he got just to the point that God's Holy Spirit left him because he turned so far away from God, and yet he was the one God chose as the king because the people begged for a king. He said, "You want a king? Here, let me give you one.
Yep.
Now, see what you got. How you like them apples?"
Did
I
they
like
have apples?
I don't know. We'll have to look that one up too.
Because
Apples and squirrels.
had Johnny Appleseed gone over to
I don't
the
know.
Middle East?
Johnny Appleseed was way after Saul and Samuel and all those people.
So in that case, they didn't have apples.
Well, I mean, Johnny Appleseed really only did his thing in the United States, so I don't know where he got the apples.
I see.
I don't know where apples came from.
Okay. Apples
Anyway.
come from trees. There
Well,
you go.
yeah.
And he has been enlightened. Let's get back to the Bible reading. Okay.
Whew.
Did you not, our God, drive out the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel, and give it forever to the descendants of Abraham your friend? That's cool.
Yes.
That, like, when somebody else is talking about you, they'd be like, this is God's friend. Like, just to be a
And
friend.
you know what's
with
weird is the only person that is spoken of as God's friend is Abraham.
Yeah.
God didn't have a lot of friends that were human beings, at least, or that he talked about.
Yeah.
But Jesus said we could be his friends if we'll do whatever he commands us.
And we are saved by the power of friendship.
That's for you, Caleb.
There you go, Caleb.
Caleb's going to have to watch this one.
Yep.
No.
You're gonna have to text him once we're over.
As weird as that is, that really is true. Greater love has no man than this, that he lays down his life for his friends. And you're my friends if you do whatever I command you. So, yeah, Jesus said his desire to be friends with us is what saved us. Power of friendship. Right there.
Yay.
My Little Pony's not too far off on that one.
Yay.
Even though they are on a lot of other things.
It just makes me feel so good inside.
Oh, well.
Moving on.
Yeah, you started it.
I was just talking about Abraham. My
Yeah,
goodness.
friends. Get your
And they have lived in it. The land, the people from Abraham lived in the
they
land.
lived in the land. Yeah,
We went
God
on a-
gave it.
We went on a
God
place.
gave the land to
so-
the descendants of Abraham.
And they have lived in it and have built for you in it a sanctuary for your name, saying, if disaster comes upon us, the sword, judgment, or pestilence, or famine, we will stand before this house and before you, where they're standing now.
Yeah, that's it. They're standing right there in front of that sanctuary.
Hey,
in front of that temple.
They're doing the thing they said they were gonna do.
They are doing that thing.
That's the thing they said.
That's the name of the thing, and
that's the thing.
and his name is in the house.
For your name is in this house, and cry out to you in our affliction, and you will hear and save.
Yeah.
That's actually not the end of the prayer. That sounds like it would be a really cool end, doesn't it? Yeah. But it keeps going, so we're gonna
Yeah,
keep
that
going.
is. It's like got a little quotation mark there, like that's the end of the
Well,
prayer.
because no.
Yeah. Oh,
because
because he's quoting the thing that was said, and he's saying the
he's
thing.
saying the thing
that
they said they
and-
were going to say,
and
but
doing
he's
the thing that they
saying
said they were
other
gonna
things
do.
that they didn't
Yeah,
say they were
yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah. So he's and they're doing the thing that they said that they were going to do.
And
too.
now behold, the men of Ammon and Moab and Mount Seir. Maybe that's the
Well, I
the
think that would be
Meunites?
Edomites, though. But
Well, yeah, because they did.
Edom.
These people did come from the region of Edom.
Yeah.
So this is
Mount
like
Seir is Edom. I mean, that's
yeah.
so,
They're like coming from Esau. Big surprise there. Esau is sending people to try and attack people.
To be fair, Esau's been dead for several hundred years at this point.
You don't know that?
Yeah, I
Is his
do.
death recorded, actually?
Uh,
Huh, so there. Alright. And
Hey.
Mount Seir, whom...
Things don't have to be recorded for me to know them. It's called implication and inference.
Ah, really? Well, I see your implication and inference and raise you with a Melchizedek. So,
What does that have to do with it?
it specifically talks about how we don't know
He
his
has no
beginning
beginning.
and his end.
That
because
doesn't
it's
mean he
not
didn't
recorded.
have a beginning or end. That's my point.
But
he-
it's possible that he doesn't because he would be Jesus, remember?
Yeah.
So, Melchizedek. Alright. Whom you would not let Israel invade when they came from the land of Egypt, and whom they avoided and did not destroy. Oh, that's nice.
These are all their kinfolks.
Yeah.
This is Lot's kids, Esau's kids, all the people that God said, I gave that land to them, don't bother them, leave them alone. And now, you want to talk about ingratitude. Here they are, coming up in Israel's house.
Yep.
Trying to take it over. All right.
Alright. Behold, they reward us by coming to drive us out of your possession, which you have given us to inherit. That's an interesting one. He's giving credit where credit is due.
Yeah. I
He
mean,
knows,
it all belongs
hey,
to God.
It's God's.
God
This is your
determines the
possession.
boundaries of the nations.
And you gave it to us as an inheritance, but it is yours.
And you ever think about that as far as, I mean, okay, so I know there's, man, I don't want to slip into politicalness here.
Okay.
But if we truly believe that God does rule in the affairs of men, as we're talking about here, and if God determines the times and the boundaries of the nations, as the Bible says that He does, then all of the complaint that, well, this land was stolen from this group and these people invaded it and took it over and this, that, and the other, all of that really is left in the dust. Because if one group was allowed to take over the land of another group, then it was allowed
God's
by
will.
God. He was okay with that happening. And that's there's probably some implications there that would play a role. I mean, certainly, what does that mean for going to war against another nation that's attacking another nation? I mean, how do we know? Maybe God is wanting that nation to win and take over that land. Maybe that First Nation's time has come and it's the end of their time. I mean, it's happened throughout history. Throughout history, you had the Babylonians
Nations
and the
rise
Persians
and
and the Greeks and the
empires fall.
Romans
And we have seen each other through it all. But when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family just to remind you of my love.
Where is that from?
Hamilton. It's what King George sings to America.
Oh, I've not.
It's
watched.
like
I've
it's
not
like a
watched
murder
all
love song,
Hamilton.
and it's perfect for King
murder
George to
love
America.
See,
it's like
sounds like something Weird Al would do.
it's like, listen, I love you, but
And
if
so I'm
you
gonna
try to
kill you.
leave, I will murder you.
Wow, that's kind of close to the way that worked.
I mean, it's King George in America. It's great.
Okay. So yeah, that's I don't know where to go from there except that Hamilton was a musical and my toleration for musicals is about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I watched about 15 minutes and then I was like, maybe I'll come back and watch another 15 minutes. some
Yeah,
other time.
that song's maybe like 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly
I
how
don't-
far in. It's
I
been a
don't
while
think
since
I
I've
don't
seen
think
it.
I got that far.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pretty good song. It's scary actually. Do not watch that song at 3 o'clock in the morning if you don't know what's coming. Okay.
All right then. Well, I
'Cause
think most of us are somewhat familiar with the
But see,
events of the Revolutionary War.
Well,
and
see,
such.
it's not the events. It's that specific
It's
song.
just what's in the song.
The actors acting for it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know how he was going to do the song. I'd only heard the song like once before. And the way he did the song and like for the movie and the production and everything at 3 o'clock in the morning, it was a little scary.
So you were
Like-
afraid King George was going to slip into your room and murder you in the night.
I mean, wake up with the king.
That's a different king. That's the Burger King.
Are we sure about that?
Right?
It's got like a plastic face. It could be King George hiding behind that, ready to murder us.
I mean, to be fair, he's been dead for a couple hundred years too.
That's what he wants you to think. Listen,
I don't.
we know that the royalty of England have a thing for living a long time. Elizabeth.
Yeah. The prince died though.
Yeah.
So did Prince,
We'll see.
but
we
he wasn't
think-
royalty.
We think.
Oh, so you think he
we
like
think.
you think he like took a youth potion and he'll come back as like a 20-year-old or something, and like be royalty again.
In the words of another possibly British person, Mary Poppins, anything can happen if you let it.
possibly British person.
Well,
I
see,
think
that's
she's a
the thing.
fictional person.
But see, she's like magical, so I don't know if she's like actually British or if she just has the accent, like Doctor Who, you know?
Doctor Who has the British accent, but he's really a Time Lord from
Exactly.
another planet.
And I've
Right.
seen some
Okay.
pretty convincing arguments that Mary Poppins is also a time lady.
A time lady.
Stuff about talking to
She
animals.
did show up timely.
Yeah.
She showed up in a timely fashion. Okay.
Mm.
Wow. We get so far off topic.
O our God, will you not execute judgment on them? For we are powerless against this great horde that is coming against us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you.
Love that. What a way to end this prayer, though.
I gotta say, that's much
Just-
better than the previous one that was like, that'd be a good ending. That's
Well, that would have been an okay ending, but I mean, hear and save,
we
is
do
good.
not
but-
know what to do, but our
and
eyes are
we're
on you.
helpless. We can't win this.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times our biggest mistake is that we just won't admit we're helpless. I mean, that's one of the that's like the first step in the 12-step program, like Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff. The first step is we admitted we were helpless. We couldn't do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what, and how often do we think we can do it by ourselves? And we fail.
Or even like, I feel like a lot of times we get a little bit presumptuous and we're like, oh yeah, I know I can't do this by myself. I've got God.
Yeah, God's going to do this for me.
Do you? Are you sure that he's gonna do
I mean,
that?
you better keep your
Because-
eyes on him. If you know,
Pay attention, watch and listen. Make sure that you know what's going on, because if you think that he's there for you when you're trying to do something that he doesn't want done,
He's
it's
not with
gonna
you.
go well. Like, that's not how this works.
yeah, that was one of the the temple. And, God's never going to let this land get destroyed because it's got His temple in it. And then lo and behold, along come the Babylonians,
And
and they
then
burn down the temple,
the Grecians
and they take everybody.
and the Romans, and
Oh, yeah,
Titus comes
solutions
through.
to, in there, but profane the temple with pork flesh,
Yep.
pig flesh. Yep.
That's one thing
That's-
you can see time and time again in history is
When
God's
you
gonna
get too
do
arrogant,
what
God
he's
will
gonna
knock
do.
you down.
so
So stay on your knees.
our
It's
job
harder to stumble when
is
you're on your
to
knees.
pay attention, to watch him, and to make sure not that he's on our side, because we don't have a side, but make sure that we're on his side.
That's right.
Because as long as we're always doing what he wants us to do, he'll stay with us.
There are only two sides in this universe.
Yep.
There's God's side and the other side.
Yep.
And
There's
you
the
don't
good
want to
place
be on the other side.
And the bad place.
Yeah. You don't want to be on the other side and go to the bad place. You want to be on his side, go to the good place.
That's the general idea.
It is a general idea. But yeah, so very important. But I just love the way he words that there at the end. That's just an amazing ending for that prayer. And of course then the obvious to us should be obvious result is that God does answer the prayer. It says that all the men of Judah were standing there with their infants, their wives, their children, everybody, the whole nation's out there in front of the temple. And the Lord's Spirit comes on Jehaziel, the son of Zechariah, the son of Benaniah, the son of Jael, the son of Mattaniah, a Levite, a descendant of Asaph, who was known for his musical ability in the temple in generations past. But he then says, pay attention, Jerusalem, Judah, people of Judah, and King Jehoshaphat, this is what the Lord says. Don't be afraid and don't panic because of this huge army. For the battle is not yours, but the Lord's. Tomorrow, march down against them as they come up the ascent of Ziz, and you'll find them at the end of the ravine in front of the desert of Jeruel. You will not fight this battle. Take your positions, stand and watch the Lord deliver you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Don't be afraid and don't panic. Tomorrow march out toward them. The Lord is with you. And so they did. The next morning, verse 20 tells us that they marched out toward the desert. And they get all together to go. And I love this. They go out to march out to war. You're going out to war. Who do you put in the front?
You know, the good people.
The good people. You're right. That's who he put out in the front. The musicians, to go out and play for the Lord and praise his majestic splendor. And they marched out ahead of the warriors. So your front line of defense is a chorus of and musicians.
Send the bards out.
Praising God. That's who you send out first.
Yep.
But God had said it's not your battle, it's mine. And so they marched out, and they were saying as they went, give thanks to the Lord, for his loyal love endures. That one probably says something like maybe steadfast love or something like that. But I kind of like that loyal love.
Which verse?
Yeah, it says steadfast love.
Steadfast love endures forever. That's a common phrase in the Old Testament. It's a very important one.
Yeah, and I kind of like that loyal love. Kind of explains what steadfast love really means in more modern term.
Yeah.
This is a love that is loyal to the end. God's
I like the
love.
way, where is it?
I don't know.
1 Corinthians 13,
Right,
where it puts his enduring.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, love endures. Yeah. And they began to shout and praise, and the Lord suddenly attacked the Ammonites, Moabites, and the men from Mount Seir who were invading Judah.
That's scary.
And they were defeated. And it says, when the men of Judah arrived at the observation post overlooking the desert and looked at the huge army, they saw dead bodies on the ground and there were no survivors. So this is quite the opposite of what we looked at Wednesday night. Wednesday night, they actually had to go fight the battle, and they actually go attack and everything. But this time, God just says, you know what? I'm fighting this one for you. This one's on me. Boom. They're all dead. It kind of reminds me of the thing about Armageddon. Everybody all about Armageddon and, big war. And everybody gathers to battle against God, and God just says, it's finished. And that's the end. That's the whole war.
And everybody blows up Armageddon like,
it's
going to be the end of the world.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be fighting forever and long and all this. God said,
nope,
it's
we're
finished.
done.
The end. I mean, they thought it was going to be a big battle. They got all their armies together ready to fight a big battle. It's like these guys, they get all these armies together. But when God fights, there's no fight. I mean, it's just over. And that right there, that is why you want to be sure you're on his side and not the other side. Because whether you get, like with Asa's army, whether God sends an army of people to hunt you down and kill you, or whether he sends an angel like he did in Hezekiah's case, he spends an angel to go kill him for it, or whether he just goes, they're dead. There you go. Look, dead bodies. You can go out there and loot them now.
Have fun.
Just amazing to think about this, and here's how big this army was. Jehoshaphat and his men went to gather the plunder, and they found a huge supply of clothing, valuable items. They carried away everything they could, and there was so much plunder. Get this. It took them 3 days just to carry off the stuff they were taking from the dead soldiers. 3 days of plundering.
So, in video games, we call that a kill steal. When somebody else kills something and you steal all the stuff from it.
And then, of course, the 4th day, they got together and they praised the Lord for what he had done. I mean,
took them long enough to do that.
Well, they were
first.
busy. I mean, they were already praising the Lord as they went, talking about how great He was and everything.
Yeah.
But wow, I mean, so this one definitely a little different than the one with Asa, where they had to go out and actually fight and chase the army.
And that's a good point. God doesn't change, but He may use a similar circumstance differently from one time than the other.
And just because He does things differently one time and another doesn't mean He changed.
Mm-hmm.
It just means He's doing
just because you have a similar circumstance come up in your life, don't expect the same thing to happen. Don't expect God to want the same thing from you. Don't get me wrong, He may, but keep an eye out, pay attention, eyes on Him, like Jehoshaphat said, because it may be different this time. It may look the same, but it may be different.
And we chased enough rabbits to get this one rather long. So we will, but this is our Sunday evening worship time together, so Bible study time. Good to see you, or at least to be seen by you. And we hope that this will help us to admit our helplessness before God.
Yep.
And just fall on His mercy, that let Him do what He does best. And we will see you next time. I guess that'll be Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
Bye.